recording started. Okay, cool. And it's Scott Cate, right?
That's right. And you like Alex or Alexander?
Alex is fine.
Okay.
Cool. All right, starting in three, two, one. Hello and welcome to the Marketing Times Analytics Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Sofronas, and today we're on with Scott Cate. Scott, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for your time today. My name is Scott. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, sort of easy to remember. And we have reinvented the basic part of the internet called the hyperlink. Not really reinvented, but sort of change how some of the very basics of it work. So excited to talk to you guys today.
Awesome. So, yeah, tell us more about your business, 301 Pro.
Nice. So if we go back to the beginning of the internet, which is a little bit different for everybody, but if you've ever written content, you've done some marketing, one of the very first things you learn is a hyperlink. Like you do that in your ads, you do that in your email, you set up that in your WordPress. And it's basically, that's how the whole internet works. You get a text message, you click a link, or even if you scan a QR code, it's the same thing. You're basically clicking a link or putting that link into your browser. So the problem with these links, they're all hard coded, which on the surface makes sense because you put a link and that's where you want everyone to go. So like your terms of service, it's the same for everyone. But we sort of reinvented that hyperlink with this very basic statement. If you're selling a product and 1,000 people click the link, should they all see exactly the same thing? Or could you influence what they see based on some real-time data? And so we can actually change the link based on some incoming data, starting with some basic things like time of day. A lot of products can be marketed differently. And so I would ask yourself as the buyer, if you are shopping for something, would you see yourself as the same buyer persona at 8 a.m. or 3 p.m. or 11 p.m.? Like, think about that.
Yeah, definitely not.
So a couple of things that you might change that are super basic. Light mode, dark mode. Like if you have a Shopify store and you have a dark mode theme, it doesn't have to be on for everybody. Or you could even have the same product, like a candle. It can be a candle in the morning, candle in the afternoon, and a candle at night. And the different setting of showing that candle will relate to the buyer more and you'll sell more. That's sort of the thesis of our entire company, is that we use real-time data to then change the destination. And it gets super advanced. What I just showed you, daytime, nighttime, is like just breaking the iceberg. But we've got location data, we've got time of day, we've got weather data. So some of our really large customers, we have enterprise customers that are some of the largest clothing companies in the world. And they will show you products based on your time of day and your weather. So you're not the same person based on time of day, but what about this? In Chicago, you've been snowed in recently. And if you're snowed in, you're not the same buyer if you're in Florida, sunny on a beach, or Sydney, sunny on a beach, or, depending on your market, if it's local or national or international, location and weather can really affect how you sell your product.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, is the benefit that the website itself might not, because I know there's website personalization services. So, how does this
100%.
differ from standard like website personalization?
Yeah, so Optimizely is an amazing product, and there's 100 people that compete with them, but they're sort of the biggest version of that. And Optimizely is, for those of your audience that might not know, it's a little JavaScript engine that runs on the page, lets you do all kinds of personalization, A/B split testing. Maybe you have Title 1 versus Title 2, or a red background versus a green background. And so that's an amazing product, and that personalization happens once the user has hit the landing page. We actually do the same thing up a level at the link level. And there's some things that we do that Optimizely can't do. For example, we have a proof of concept with General Motors. And they do Chevy Truck Month commercials on TV. We put a QR code. And when somebody scans that QR code, instead of taking them to Chevrolet.com, which is where Optimizely could kick in and do some on-page personalization, We actually find the closest Chevy dealership in North America and then route them straight to the dealership. So it could be an oil change program or a trade in program or something that's local. So you have a national marketing. There's only one link in the QR code, but then in real time, we figure out where the user is located. And it's only about a 10-mile range based on IP address geodetection. So it's not like creepy. We don't know exactly where you are without your permission. And then we take you to the closest dealership. And we have about a 10-mile fidelity on that, which is pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And if you have something like a Chevy dealership, which typically are not, super close together, then it really works. We have another proof of concept with Planet Smoothie. And that fidelity does not work for them because, there's hundreds of Planet Smoothies and some of them are super close together. You could think the same thing with Starbucks or Verizon or any retail location. So for that, we have something called precise location where we do actually ask the user to share their location. But like if I'm ordering a smoothie, then it makes sense. Like, yes, I want to order from the closest location. And on my phone, I give permission for that. So there's a lot that we can do at the link level before the user ever even gets to the page level. And so that's how we're different than the on-page personalization sites.
Okay. And then does it work with UTM still? Like what is the like marketing attribution side of this?
That is a great question. I call it the UTM lie. So again, for your audience, the UTM I think is, what is it? Urgent tracking mechanism is the origin of that. Google, way back in the day, bought this company called Urchin, who was like the very beginning of Google Analytics. And even today, we use UTM underscore source. That's probably the most famous one. But I call it the UTM lie because those UTMs are hard coded everywhere. And like if you send a link, let's say you send a link in your newsletter, which everyone does. You put UTM source underscore newsletter. But then your marketing department copy paste that into social media, which happens all the time. And now your UTM lie is basically telling you all the social media traffic came from the newsletter. So let me back up just a little bit and explain how this works, which I think will then, in a roundabout way, directly answer your attribution question. What we really built is a rules engine. So let's go back to the hard-coded hyperlink. You have an A tag with an href that has a link in it. Click the link, it's hard-coded, 1,000 people go to the same place. We built a competitor to something like Bitly, which you might know as a link shortener. Bitly is amazing. We've all used Bitly. They've been around forever. The concept there is you can take this long, ugly URL, which has all the tracking parameters in it, hide it behind a branded URL that's tiny, that's easy to share and copy on social media. And then when they click that link, it's still hard-coded, goes to the destination. So what we built is a rules engine. You click the short link, it comes to the rules engine, and if there's no rules, then it's just like it's hard-coded. You just go to the final destination. But the rules engine is really where the magic is because the rules define location and weather and basically say, if the weather is snowing, then change my URL to do this. Or, now this directly answers your question about attribution. If I came from Twitter, then change the UTM source to Twitter. And we even have normalization rules. So capital Twitter becomes lowercase Twitter, X becomes Twitter, x.com becomes Twitter. So we have this normalization set of rules for attribution that really gives you a cleaner set of Google Analytics. I mean, if you're just one person doing your marketing, then you're in charge of that. But even you've probably made the mistake between X and Twitter. Now you have two different attribution sources. So we normalize that. And on the way out, the link basically always has a UTM source of Twitter or Instagram instead of IG or iGram or capital Instagram, whatever the user might have put in there. So that rules engine really is what we've invented.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And so you've seen that this increases conversion with these personalized links?
Oh my gosh, we have so many case studies that we're working on. So we just launched this in January. So it's relatively new. And we're working on a ton of case studies that hopefully will be done. It's amazing to me how long the case studies take. But yes, we've seen a tremendous uptick in conversion from everything from SMS to paid ads. Paid ads, we don't necessarily have control over the visual because it's inside the ad engine. But clicking the link, we can then take you to a specific product. So we can use AI to look at your purchase history and then direct you to your forecasted next product category, which that's another proof of concept that we're working on right now. And that works great for awareness. So, we say, hey, Alex, we want you to come in for Mother's Day, and here's a 30% off coupon. But there's some rules in there. Like if you're more than 10 miles away from a store, we want to drive you online. If you are within 10 miles of a store, then we want to give you a QR code to come in the store to scan because we want to drive foot traffic. And then you could even add another layer of rules. If you're within 10 miles and the store is open, then we might give you a different incentive within the next couple of hours. And that's different based on a car versus Smoothie King, right? Every business is going to have their own set of rules. But I can also tell some of your audience is thinking, I'm not like this international consortium. How am I going to use some of these rules? So let's go back to like a solopreneur who's doing marketing. We have something called an event link. And an event link is perfect for everybody because we all do webinars, we all schedule podcasts, we all have things that are time specific, training classes. And so my question to everybody is, what do you do with all those links that are out in the wild after the event? And the answer is most people are like, well, I don't do anything. They just die. Like now you come to a registration page and you're like, this event is already over. Well, what if when you set up your event registration link, you had 2 links or 3 links, like before and after, or maybe before, during, and after. Like before the event, go to registration. During the event, go to my live stream account, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you're live streaming. And then after the event, go to the recording. And the beauty of that is you never have to change the link. Like you've already done the work of getting people to promote it that's in the wild, and now your link continues to work. Or you can change your mind later. So if you're promoting something and you're having other people blog about you or write about you, or you have a backlink system where other people are putting backlinks to your site, all of those should go through a rules engine because that puts the control back in you. It's no longer hard-coded. Like if you give CNN in your press release a hard-coded URL, you're forcing yourself to maintain that URL structure literally the rest of your life until you want it to no longer start serving that traffic. And so this bites a lot of people, particularly solopreneurs. Domain name changes. Like, oh, we used to be Scott, now we're Scott 7. Or we used to be Scott 7, but now we got this new domain, now everything's on Scott. If you have the rules engine, you literally just create one rule at a team level. So you don't even have to do it on every link. You just go to the team level and you say, every link that we have, if the domain is Scott 7, change it to Scott. Like, there's just so many things that we can do that's cool at this rules engine level that we really never had the possibility before. And when I say we compete with Bitly, Bitly doesn't have any of this. Like Bitly's just the 800-pound gorilla that has been around forever. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking bad about them. I love Bitly. I've used them forever. They just don't have this rules engine that gives us the flexibility to make changes in bulk in the future. So that's it. It all comes back to that basic rules engine.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I love that. That's clearly a differentiator. So how should a marketer approach how to personalize their links with the rules engine? How should they think about the different segments and tailoring their website to those different segments?
So the first thing is you have to start and plan so that tomorrow is better than today. It's a little daunting sometimes to do something new because you're like, oh, I've got all these links, but it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can literally just start with one link. Like all the new links that you create and your new newsletter links that go out, those can start coming into the system. And you don't actually even have to have any rules today. You just want to set yourself up so that when something changes in the future, everything is processing through this rules engine that you can manipulate. But the first thing that I ask people to do is light mode, dark mode. It's a super easy thing that almost every website either already has or can easily be upgraded. And then you can just add a system rule that says, add a query string of theme equals dark when it's between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. And you could set that at a global level. Like, so our rules engine is at a link level, a campaign level, or a team level. Team is global. So everything in the whole system follows that link. And just that one thing will help you relate to buyers, particularly if you're selling a product. Like if you're doing something through Shopify, or if you have a WordPress site, or if you're anything that's direct to consumer, man, if you blind somebody with a super bright screen at 2 a.m. when somebody's like doom scrolling and ready to buy your widget or candle or whatever it is you're selling, like you're going to have a much higher chance of selling that just by changing the theme based on time of day. Now, let's be honest. If you are using WordPress, your theme switcher might do that for you magically. And if it is, then that's awesome. You don't have to use us. But all of our customers come to us as marketers, not as developers. Someone could argue as a developer, anybody could do this. And I would agree with you. Any developer can do it. In fact, we're developers and we did it. That's how it's available. The point is, the developer shouldn't have to. So if you're in a larger team, 5, 10, 15 people creating content, and you have to ask somebody for a link, we call that person the link gatekeeper or the link manager. If you have to ask somebody for a link that defines the UTM parameters, which a lot of people listening might be in larger organizations where they have to do that, man, that is just such a process killer. It takes so much time. It just has negativity written all over it. But those are the problems that we solve.
Yeah. I actually wasn't even aware that you could change light mode versus dark mode from the URL.
Oh
So
yeah.
is
So
does this all just operate from like the URL? Yeah, tell us a little bit more about like the process of how the URL actually affects the page.
sure. So most people know the URL is what you type into the address bar of your browser, www.301.pro. That's actually my website. And that address has a couple of different parts to it. It has a domain, which most people know. And then after the slash, it has something called a path. That's usually a page name. And sometimes those can even be nested in directories, which will give you a hierarchy of pages. Like you might have a slash documentation slash, and then documentation is the directory, but all the pages in that directory are the path. And then after that, you have a query string, which is where your UTM source goes. You've actually probably seen that with a question mark, UTM underscore source equals social, or whatever the value of your parameters are. Well, when the page actually loads, WordPress is obviously one of the most common. Shopify or Wix or GoDaddy, all of these page builders have the ability to run a little JavaScript. And the JavaScript can very easily say, if the URL has this parameter, in my case, I just said theme, and it has a value of dark, then change the CSS that's loading to the dark theme. Now, not all of the theme switchers have that. I'm sort of making some of this up. We're just talking about capabilities. Like if you just go to Microsoft.com, theme equals dark, like that may or may not work depending on how they've set up their page, right? But certainly the theme switcher can change based on an incoming URL parameter that would change that theme. So yeah.
Interesting. And I guess it would be the same with other things like which product to show and just other elements, other design elements on the page.
Yeah. So which product to show is a little bit more complicated because now you're talking about a catalog of many different URLs. And again, we're trying to get into with anonymous data. Like I'm not tracking you or trying to figure out exactly where you live, or I'm not setting cookie values so that when you come back later, just anonymous data based on time, location, and weather. I want to connect with the buyer's psyche to help them better connect with my product. Like I said, if it's snowing out, I can sell you the same candle, then it's different if you're sunny on a beach. And I know that I know the weather and I know it in real time. I literally know it when you click the link. And so that gives me the ability to show the product or highlight the product in a different sense. Now, let's also be realistic. If you have a customer or somebody's listening to this and they're selling 2 or 3 things a day, then this is not going to be helpful. If you're selling 100 things a day, you're sort of probably getting into the concept that this could be helpful. But if you're selling 1,000 things a day, this can bump up your numbers, because at that point, 2%, 3%, 5% change in your order rate is going to be meaningful enough to, want to put in the time and the effort to sell a new product. And that's on the product side. If you're talking about content side and content promotion, I worked inside Microsoft where we created hundreds and hundreds of press releases and blog posts and YouTube articles. Like every time a new product would come out, we have a whole team of 200 people around the world that are creating content for this product. And we put all of that through a rules engine that makes it very easy to get the customer to the right place. And so the larger you are, the more this is going to benefit you. We also have something simple like language detection. So if you scan a QR code and you only speak Spanish, we can get the language detection from the user agent that comes across from either your phone or device, whatever you've used to either click the link or scan the QR code. And then if there's a Spanish version available, we can just send you right to the Spanish call center, website, documentation page, marketing page. And so again, if you're larger and you're presenting content to an audience, we're working with some state of California government that is supporting like 13 languages. And when you click a link from a text message, and then the body of the text message has a couple of different things in a couple of different languages, click this link for more information in English, Spanish, French, German, Japanese, Korean, etc. Then when they click that link, we use the language detection to get them to the right place. So that there's so much you could do in the rules engine based on the incoming data of what we know about the user versus just hard coding the link so that everyone goes to the same place.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious about the analytics side. So what are the different kinds of analytics that you can track with your platform, and how does that help with showing the value?
Yeah. So analytics, which I know is the theme of your show, is one of the least important parts to us because we have what I call poor man's analytics. Like we have a click count, we have a little map of the world that shows you where people are coming from, but we actually encourage our customers not to use our analytics. In fact, we go even so far to say, if you don't have an analytics engine already set up, then we're probably not going to help you, because like you have bigger fish to fry if you don't already have your own analytics, whether it's through Snowflake as a larger enterprise, Google Bigtable, Fathom Analytics, or Google Analytics, GA4, like whatever you're doing. What we want to do is enrich the analytics you already have. We do not want to replace them. And so we have something called click data enrichment, where we can add onto the query string a bunch of variables that will flow through to your analytics engine so that you could ask the question. For example, here's a question that nobody can answer. I would even challenge your A-list brilliant marketers that are listening to this. Very simple question. What time of day are people on your website? And everybody fails at that. I shouldn't say everybody. 99% of people fail because in their brain, they think of server time. And what they don't think of is local time. So the question, what time is it? It really only has one answer, and that is, from your website point of view, it's all the time. Like your website is 24 hours a day, every hour. Like there's that song, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. If you have international traffic, you have someone on your website right now that's 2 o'clock in the morning, and you also have someone on your website right now that's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like if you're a Shopify store, again, with the quantity, if you have a small amount of traffic and it's English only, and you have a North American product that you only sell to your neighbors, or you're like a dentist, then this is not going to be useful for you. But if you have hundreds of thousands or millions of people that is coming to your site, then the time of day it's all the time. So when we talk about the theme of the website being light mode or dark mode and being able to be changed in the query string, That's super important because at the same time, you have two people on your website in light mode and dark mode, right? Your site needs to be smart enough to be able to do that. And so what we pass along in the query string is local time. And we have local hour, local minute, and we use a 24-hour clock. So now in your analytics, in your Google Analytics, if you're using us, we have click data enrichment so that every page that comes through, we tell you the time. And you'd be surprised that maybe the most popular part of your website is 5 a.m. Not server time, but 5 a.m. for the local time. And this trips people up when they look at analytics because they'll look at analytics for today, and let's say right now it's noon, which for me it is. For you, it's 2 o'clock, because again, we have different times. But if I look at my analytics for today, I'll see people that have been on my website at 9 p.m. And you're like, wait, it's not 9 p.m. yet. Oh, it is actually 9 p.m. for the visitor, right? So we actually have 3 times. We have server time, we have my time as the product owner, and then we have local time, which is the person who clicked the link. And that's really what's most important if we're trying to get into the psyche of, how that person feels based on time of day. The most basic sense of that is we have restaurants that use us for their QR codes. And when you scan a menu, we open the menu based on breakfast, lunch, happy hour, or dinner based on time of day. So now we don't have to ask, which menu do you want to see? We just load the right menu. So there's a lot you can do with it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Um, yeah, I can see why there's so much value here. I'm curious, just zooming out, what gave you the idea for this? How did this business originate? Tell us the origin story.
Yeah. Well, I've built this product maybe a dozen times as I've worked through my own companies or worked through Microsoft. I also was in Amazon AWS for a couple of years, and they experienced some of the same problems. And I really figured out that this was a problem that could be solved as a product based on building those internal products for larger teams. We talked about the UTM source tracking. That's a product now. That's a problem now we just magically fix. You don't even have to put a UTM link in. We have affiliate tracking. We have team member tracking. So when 20 different people on your team create a link, we actually only have to create one version of it, and then we support something called variations. So the origin is I actually have built this quite a few times, and every time I show it to somebody, they're like, oh, I wish we had that. And now they can. So it's a product we've been working on for about a year. And like I said, we just launched in January. So it's relatively new. We're just getting started. And we've got a lot of interest from our existing network of high-level agencies that are dealing with the enterprises that I've mentioned. So yeah, it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's really great. And out of curiosity, how do you market your product?
That's a
Aside from
great question.
podcasts, of course.
Yeah. So I use podcasts as what I call partner marketing. Hopefully someone in your audience as my partner is interested in this and they're like, oh, I have 10 people creating content. This could be useful for me. Or to answer your question, we spend money on marketing to enterprise ad agencies. So all of the enterprises that I've mentioned as proof of concepts, I'm not actually working with anyone at the enterprise. I'm working with the enterprise ad agency because they control the money, they control the funding, they already have the Google Ads accounts and the ability to do sort of this up-level marketing. So I target enterprise agencies, which has a lot of pros and cons. One of the pros is if you get in with one client and you make them a hero, then they want to celebrate you by bringing you into another client, which has happened, and it's glorious. One of the downsides is that it takes a really long time. We might work with somebody for 3 to 6 months before we can actually get in the door to do a proof of concept to then, do 3 or 4 or 5 more things, and then it sort of it's a little volcano effect, but it just takes a really long time to get through that process. The bigger the company, the more the red tape, the harder it is to get paid, the harder it is to become a vendor, and just the little level of difficulty that comes along with that. So we actually have two pricing models. We have what we call retail pricing, which is just go to the website, sign up, start using it. You can do that today, self-service. And then we have enterprise pricing, which is where we will augment with staff to help you with programming, help you with your launch event. And those are typically, like I said, 3 to 6 month engagements, sort of after the approval process. And we've got a bunch of those that we're working on as well. And I say working on, like, getting started and having the staff sort of come in and build things for you. So it's been pretty great. But that's where I spend my marketing dollars, is to enterprise ad agencies. So we define that as an ad agency with more than 100 employees. And it's not perfect. There's probably a lot of enterprise agencies that have less than 100 employees, but that's the target market that we go after.
Nice. Yeah, that is super interesting. I love this business. I think it's super unique. And so I'm really glad that you joined the podcast. That's 301.pro for anybody interested. And
Nice.
thank you again, Scott. I really appreciate you joining and sharing your thoughts.
All right, Alex. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And thanks everyone for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, great job. Hang on for 1 second.